it's not letting me look at it on.
Because we're not live under that one.
Oh, okay. What do we have to hit the plus on that one? We're trying to set this up, so if anybody's here, we're trying to check out the chat.
Oh man, there's people waiting in the other one.
Here we are. Looks like we're, is it going? I hit the live and it went. Here we are. Looks like we're, is it going?
Sorry about this, folks. This is our first time doing this, so
And
we
we're
are
very confused.
super confused.
Is anybody here? It says we've got 2 messages, but I can't see the messages. Can we see them on the thing? Or is there a delay? Can we see them on there? On the phone? On my phone? Are we in our live or no?
This is the live, yes.
Okay,
But it's not the live we had set up.
I'm pointing to stuff. That is the live, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a delay. Oh, okay. Well, how do I see the comments and stuff? What do I do?
Nothing. They'll come up.
Okay, all right, so this, but do we have people in the live?
No,
Okay, why, because we did a new one?
because we did a new one.
Should we
Yeah.
put a comment on the old one, or? Oh wait, here we go, Fire and Ice says, hi, no worries, LOL. Hi, Fire and Ice. Glad you found us.
Somebody found us.
We're very confused about how to do this. It's like, we were more nervous about this than pretty much anything we've ever done, right?
Yes.
How are you today? Okay, so we have Fire and Ice in here.
So we can just get started, I guess, and
Okay, so we have some things we decided we were going to talk about today. If there's anything you'd like us to talk about, just put it up in the chat, and we will we'll answer your question or we'll talk about it. So the first thing we decided we were going to talk about was the Nikolai Mew verdict and what we thought about that. So.
go ahead. I'm trying to get if there's anybody in the other one.
So what did you think about the Nikolai Mew verdict? We were not surprised that they changed the charges, right, at the end?
No, apparently that's fairly common. So.
We are terrible with technology. Actually, he's a lot better than me. I can't believe I'm a teacher and I actually do this. You were pretty disappointed with the verdict? What did you want? Did you want the Fire and Ice? Did you want the premeditated murder? Now this charge, I'm not sure if anybody knows this, but I had looked this up with my forensics class because my students were very into this. It carries 60 years and 40 if there's extenuating circumstances or like precipitating factors. So with him being 54 now, I mean 40 years he'll die in prison.
Yeah,
I
he's
would
gonna
think.
die. Yeah, he's definitely
With
gonna
40
die in
being,
prison.
you know, the least one. Oh no, okay, so you didn't think he went there planning to kill anybody? No, I just knew that somebody was gonna have to suffer for a 17-year-old passing away. I thought that, and especially 2 kids getting disemboweled, I just figured there would have to be something. Yeah, I think 40's a lot, you know?
It is a lot for that.
So did you think he would just get exonerated, or did you think he would get any type of, like, did you think it would be more like a Crumbly thing where he got 10 to 15 for the, you know, more of a reckless endangerment type of thing?
That's the best I could do with that one. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, I thought that he definitely and I caught some heat in the comments for saying this, but
We caught a lot of stuff in the comments. That was,
I thought he was guilty of something. I did not feel he was guilty of the charges that were out there, and I don't even think he was guilty of what they actually convicted him of. I still say, and this is where I got he was guilty of something. Like,
Yeah,
he
we took a
needed
lot
to-
of heat for that comment.
He needed to get some sort of consequences for his actions because he did have, and I know there was teenagers all over the place, but he had several opportunities where he could have walked away.
Do you think it should have been more like the Crumblies? Like 10 to 15?
I don't even know. Honestly, no. I don't think it should have been that much.
You don't think so?
No, I was thinking 6 months to a year.
I think what
Something-
might have put the jury over the edge, in my opinion, just from watching the video and everything, the fact that he initially went over to them.
Right.
You know, to me, he could have just avoided the whole thing and stayed the heck away from them. So I don't know if maybe maybe they took that into account. You know what I mean? I'm not sure.
Yeah, he had, I know he didn't go there planning on killing anybody, and that's very true. It was a tough case. It really was. And being an older man myself, I don't know how I would have reacted to being in the situation I was in. I do know that at the beginning of the confrontation, I would have handled that differently. Like, in other words, when I was just going over to them, I said,
Right.
listen, my friend lost their phone. Can you either help me look for it or just keep an eye out for it? Can I check under your tubes? Just to let them know what I was doing. But and I don't think he really did that. But, you know, we'll you know.
Definitely the pushing into the water had to have scared the bejesus out of him.
Oh,
I totally
yeah.
agree
And
with
that's
that.
what I told
yeah.
Mary. I said, if that was me, I would have freaked out because I have this weird phobia about not being able to breathe or drowning. And that would have, you know me, that would have totally freaked me out.
And it was shallow water, but he was submerged.
It doesn't
for
matter,
sure.
yeah. I mean, you go underwater, you can't breathe.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was so much going into it that I don't know.
It was a lot. Yeah, and at first my students were really interesting to hear their perspective on it. And at first my students were kind of like, well, they were the aggressors. But then when they saw the injuries and they saw the blood in the water, I think that freaked them out and they were like, okay, well, he needs to get something. You know, even my students felt kind of the way, I'm thinking they felt the way the jury felt. Well, another thing too is you wouldn't have been in a tube on a river not even a year past your quadruple bypass because you're kind of you'd be freaking out. So that would have been.
Yeah, I would have been
You
freaking
know.
out, but
And those injuries were crazy. I mean, it just looked like he just took that knife and just slashed at them.
And
But if you're freaked out, that's what you do.
I don't think you
You
could
know?
take the injuries into account. Well, I mean, I guess you have to a little bit, but I don't think. I don't know. It was such a confusing case. It really was, and it really came upon us very quickly. Like, I know it was out there, but there was
Right.
really no buzz about it. And then all of a sudden, boom! It was just out there all over the place.
A lot of these things I don't see either until Court TV puts them up. You know, because you can only follow so much. I mean, I'm a teacher, so obviously I work a lot because teachers work a lot. And I try to follow what I can, and then stuff will come up on Court TV, like when the trial's coming up. Like a lot of times I'll know when the trial is. For example, we're definitely we want to follow the Chad Dorman trial. So that starts in July. So like I know that's coming up and I'm following up to that, you know what I mean? The Chad Daybell, speaking of Chads, the Chad Daybell trial came upon me because I'd been kind of following that. Or like Alex Murdaugh, it was talk about Alex Murdaugh, and then the trial was upon us. So I think that you can only follow so much and you have to, pick your cases, you know what I mean?
Right.
Absolutely, everybody was drunk. And when I watched the video, he appeared to be drunk too. I mean, when they have a trial that says sober witness,
Yeah.
Hi, Curtis, how are you?
this-
Glad to have you here with us. We appreciate our subscribers and our viewers so much because I just beat myself up every time we throw out a video, right? I'm like,
You do.
I could have done that better. I sucked. Oh my goodness. My Scranton accent came out. That's what I do. So we really appreciate each and every one of you. We feel the others were terribly reckless. It was bad. And you know what the funny thing was too? You get that mob mentality and you see it on video. Like you hear about it, you talk about it. You know what I mean? I've talked about it with my students. And then there it is. That's the mob. You see it right in the video.
and I think it's
you know?
even accentuated even more because of the video.
Right.
You get that video
Yeah,
going,
that's
and
true.
everybody's sort of, now they're on video, so now they have to puff out their chest. They got to be the cool ones,
Right.
And you get a bunch of drunk teenagers together, especially drunk teenage boys. That's what we're gonna do.
And we watched Dr. Grande, and he said it best. He said, you know, it went from maniacal laughing and taunting to freaking out screaming. And he didn't think,
it was like that too.
yeah, I don't know if you guys watch Dr. Grande. He's great. He's hilarious. Wry hilarious, right? And you get all your crimes start to finish in 15 minutes, and you get a psychological, you know, a fake psychological diagnosis, because he can't diagnose anybody. So, but we felt kind of the same way as him. You know what I mean? But I knew with the 17-year-old died, and you know those others injured so critically, that somebody was going to pay, and it was going to be Nikolai. I just think the verdict, the takeaway of that case is stay the hell away from strangers, especially in today's landscape.
Yeah, and if you're gonna do it cautiously. I mean, that was really that was the only place where the only fault that I can find with him is at the initial part of the confrontation.
Right.
If he would have I think if he would have handled that part of it differently, and then he also, I mean, he's been in this country since he was, 14 years old?
15 years, yeah, 15.
14,
right.
15 years old. So, I mean, I understand he's from Romania, but he's lived most of his life in this country.
Right.
So he knows how to interact with people. It's not like there was a huge language barrier or, you know, a societal, you know, he doesn't know how to deal with our society. He's been here. So.
Sorry, I'm not looking at the camera. I'm looking at the chat. Peter's been looking at the camera. Curtis, you're absolutely right. Others should have been charged. Yeah, I mean, those other kids that, you know, precipitated that whole confrontation, they're just as guilty as him, right?
It's these damn cell phones. I mean, get rid of the cell phones. Get rid of the social media. It's just ruining our society. I'm sorry to go off on a rant, but I've had.
Well, we talked about that in our Zoomer video too. And I tell my students, I'm like, you should only have flip phones. I'm fine with the flip phones. It should have ended at the flip phone. You can call people, you can text people, you can check your first 4 emails on the screen about this big, and that's all the kids need. Like, I just wish they would switch everybody to flip phones. They would stop the doom scrolling. They would get the heck off TikTok. Maybe they could play primitive games. And so many of them play these games. Here I go. You're going to get me going off on this. All right, I'll stop after this. They play these games that look like Atari Pong from when we were kids. They look so low tech. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's ridiculous. I don't understand how these kids spend hours and hours playing these games.
Because they need to look at their phone, and I don't think it even matters what the hell they're looking at. I need to have my phone in front of my face,
right.
And I don't know if they're waiting for notifications to come through and they're just passing the time until that happens. I have no idea, but these things drive me nuts.
Fire and Ice, that's a really cool name. It reminds, is it after the poem, or you just thought it was a cool name? Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I say side with those that favor fire. Ice is also nice and would suffice. There's my English teacher coming out for you. But I love that name, it's so cool. All right, so anything else about Nikolai?
No,
poor dude. And you know what? I was thinking about this today. I woke up in this terrible pain because I slept funny, and I'm in my 50s, let's put it that way. And I thought about this poor dude going to prison. I thought about Chad Daybell too. I don't feel bad about Chad Daybell. I mean, obviously they killed so many people. They killed anybody who stood in their way, basically. Yeah. But I thought, wow, this poor dude's 54 and he's like sleeping on this prison mat. Can you imagine the pain you wake up in if you're in prison at that age, sleeping on those? And then I thought about Richard Allen, what came out about him, you know, being on suicide watch, and he was on that little, they said it was a little tiny mattress on this little bed a few inches from the floor, and I thought, he's in his 50s too. Like, getting old in prison's gotta suck, you know?
Getting old anywhere sucks, doesn't it?
But it sucks more for somebody like Nikolai Mew, who basically,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And you know what's, that's the funny thing about a lot of these crimes, and I said this to Pete, a lot of them are just horrible tragedies that could have easily been avoided. Yeah. Like, look at the Crumbleys. The Crumbleys are a perfect example. I don't blame that kid. That kid was screaming for help, and that is hard for me to say because I'm a teacher, and if that happened to my students and another student did that, I don't even know. Ever since Uvalde, I've kind of been a mess.
Yeah, Uvalde, really.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't blame the kid. He was screaming for help. He's 16 years old. He's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, and I think he could have been rehabilitated. I mean, it's not like a situation with Tristan Bailey, And that kid, oh, who stabbed Tristan Bailey in Florida? What the heck was his name? I'll think of it. Aiden
Fucci.
Aiden Fucci. Oh, good. Wow, I've taught you well. Like that to me was something where the kid was just being a complete.
The kid's just a pure evil.
Right. He
Yeah.
wanted to see how it felt to kill somebody.
That's just
Ethan
pure
Crumbly, I think, was just so disturbed and so crying out for help.
And then he was,
You know?
and then his parent just basically handed him over a weapon of destruction.
Absolutely. So how many kids have been targeted through social media? Absolutely. And that's the problem with kids and social media today. Like back in the day when we were bullied, you could go home and get away from it. Now you have this dumb box in your hand. I call it the idiot box to my students. And it follows you 24/7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just follows you and you never get away from what's out there in the world. You know, it's like a global society is in your hand.
In your hand.
And is with you
24/7.
24/7. It's
Yeah.
just insane. Like if you really think about the ramifications of it, it's crazy. So is there any cases, Fire and Ice and Curtis, you guys are really interested in? Because we're always trying to find cases people are interested in, and it's hard, it's difficult. The Nikolai Mew one, we were in the right place at the right time. Wow, that blew up.
Yeah.
We couldn't believe it, and we took a lot of heat for it. And it was so hard to get together because, well, that's the problem with doing this channel, because it's kind of lifestyle with the wine and it's true crime with the true crime. And our time is limited, and you have to just like research these cases within an inch of their lives, you know, it's crazy. So what cases are you guys all following? If we can talk about those.
And then of course we have the Delphi case just
There's the good old Delphi case.
getting crazier and crazier as the days go on.
Now, have you guys followed Watts too? We seem to get a lot of views when we do Watts. All right, so let's talk about the Crumbly verdict since we haven't. If we get oh, there you go, Delphi for sure. Fire and Ice, you're into Delphi. What do you think is so intriguing about Delphi? It took me a very long time to get into Delphi. I am a latecomer to Delphi. I would hear about it. It didn't seem that intriguing. I think because it was so long before they got somebody. You know what I mean? And then when when Richard Allen, when the PCA came out for Richard Allen, remember? I came home. I printed it out at school. I came home with it. I read the whole thing. I'm like, this is insane. They got nothing on this dude. And then, when did you get into it? You got into it when the Franks memo came out, right?
That Franks memorandum just pulled me right in. As soon as I saw that, I was all over it.
I thought the Crumblies were creeps. Oh, they were the most horrible. They were just horrible people. They just had these crazy lives too. You know, between their extracurricular activities. It seems like they spent more time with the horses than the kid, right? They seem like people who didn't want a kid and got stuck with a kid. That's what it seemed like to me. I hate to make that, but hate to say that. We cannot believe the judge and prosecutor in Delphi either. We just can't. And another thing too, if you follow the communities, and I follow all these communities, I'm not sure who you watch, if you want to put who you watch. Some people are just so Richard Allen is guilty, and some people are just so Richard Allen is innocent. And we can't understand why, given what we're given, that people could be in one camp or another. Well, I could see the Richard Allen is innocent camp, right?
Well, I can see where you could be in both camps, and I can see where you can skew yourself one way or the other.
Thank you, Curtis. We appreciate that. We work hard on our Delphi coverage.
And lean in one way or the other, but there's no way to be definitive. There's not, he's definitely innocent or he's definitely guilty. Because we don't know we think we know most of the evidence, or at least we think we know most of what's going to be presented, but there's no way of knowing what McClelland has. He might have some sort of bombshell evidence that we have no clue about. That
I
just
think there's
automatically ties him right to the crime with no questions asked. That's possible. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible that they have something like that.
The sad thing about him is if he didn't do this, it's horrible what's happening to this man. That's what I find is sad. You know what I mean?
And it could come out that he is 100% guilty, and we'll be like, okay, so he got what he deserved. We have to wait, and I know you are sort of
Curtis, cool. You're following Chad Daybell. Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit.
yeah.
Too.
So I know you're on a little bit on the other side of it, where I'm like, I'm okay with not having all the evidence. I'm okay with this not being tried in the media, not being tried in the public. It needs to be tried in a court of law. So I'm okay with us not knowing everything that the defense has, not knowing everything the prosecution has. I think that's the way it should be, and I know you just want to know it.
I agree, Curtis. It stinks of a cover up. Remember when we first started talking about Delphi and you said we had this funny discussion between the two of us. So he is all about conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
everything's a conspiracy theory. You know,
That's sort of what drew me into
even
this
the
case.
goofy Justin Bieber and that Pizzagate and all that weird crap. So anyway, he said Delphi wasn't a conspiracy, and I said, okay, so you think everything's a conspiracy until there is a conspiracy? Because if anything's a conspiracy, Delphi is a conspiracy, correct?
We don't know. Is it a conspiracy? Is it incompetence? Is it...
Absolutely, we can agree to disagree. And I think they've got a bombshell. I don't think they'd be doing what they're doing and risking a mistrial and risking Richard Allen walking if they don't have a bombshell. And the bombshell I think they have, I'll tell you, Fire and Ice, is that they have trophies or something from the victims in the fire pit. And if they don't, it's kind of sad. So what do you think is the evidence for Richard Allen being guilty? Because I'd be interested in that. I'd like to see what that is. Maybe others are involved, for sure. And the part that makes me think that others are involved was that whole crossing the creek. I can't see one man who was 50, right? Well, at the time he would have been what, 44-ish?
He's 40.
Mid-40s-ish.
He's not a big imposing
But he's
guy.
5'5", they said, right? And
Yeah,
at the
well,
time he was what, about 200 pounds at the time.
175.
Now he's
200,
like
yeah.
nothing,
Now
right?
nothing.
I just don't see how he would have. And Libby was not a tiny girl, and she was athletic. I mean, I'm not trying to hate on anybody, but remember when we Googled everything and it said that she was almost 200 pounds at the time of the murder? So I don't know how you.
Well, even Sheriff Liggett, who said under his, swore under oath that he thought only one person was involved,
Right.
Richard Allen, but then when he's talking to his deputy, he's like, no, there's definitely more than one person. I don't see
Yeah.
how one person could have done all of this. It just doesn't, there's just too much involved with it that...
Richard Allen, his little tiny gun. Well, and that was the first time we read the PCA, we were like, none of the testimony matches. And I know from teaching forensics that witness testimony typically is not really that reliable.
No, it's not reliable. And if you really look at that PCA, they were describing at least 3 different people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So...
And they released those 2 sketches. Nothing adds up in this case.
No.
Nothing adds up. I hope he's the guy.
And
I hope they've got a bombshell.
Remember way back, and I don't remember when it was, but I know we were reading through, it was when we were reading through, remember when she had them in the chambers when she was going to take them out into the court and call them out, and it's like,
right,
you have a choice, we can go out there and do this in public, or, we can do it now.
Right.
Remember when she said that there was not only the murder...
She said she said grape.
Yes.
And that's, we
And
were
that
like,
still
what?
has
There's
not-
no evidence of sexual.
So
of
that's
SA,
what makes
none.
me wonder, is there more
Right.
that we don't know about?
Right.
Because why would she say that? Why would she even bring that up? And it wasn't like she was bringing that up behind closed doors
Yeah.
and just speaking casually.
Right.
So she obviously had seen that
Seen something.
somewhere.
You know what else is interesting too? What do you guys think about a sequestered jury? That is crazy to me. 3 weeks those people have to live in a hotel. I would kill to be on this jury.
Oh, I know you would. Yeah, you would be all about it. But in this day and age, how hard is that going to be to find? Not only just find a regular jury for this trial, and
They got a Daybell jury, so
maybe it won't be as hard because
they're
doesn't
getting them
seem
out of
like
the
this
area
is a
too.
big national
No.
story.
I'm
sure it's a local story, but
It heated up when Long Crime, was it Long Crime that did the video?
I don't know.
And then when Court TV when the chick from Court TV started talking, when Labredo went on.
When Labredo went on, that's when it sort of.
When Court TV started covering it, it heated up, you know, and then it just, I don't know. To me, it's the neatest case out there, other than maybe Kohberger. You guys are following Kohberger, I would assume, right? I would think.
Kohberger is from our backyard.
Kohberger's our neighbor. If there's a mistrial, Kohberger's probably going to be back in our backyard.
Yes.
Because that's what I'm worried about a mistrial with that one. I just think
I've been saying it all
the
along.
prosecution is way out of their league.
Yeah,
with
that
Ann
defense,
Taylor,
that
she
defense
is.
attorney is really good.
She's a freaking rock star. I think that in Delphi too. I mean, we've seen nothing from Slicknick other than that video of him carrying his lunch.
He is in way over his head. And the sad thing is, I'm not even sure if these two defense attorneys are all that good.
Right.
But they found something and they've just sort of latched onto it and they're not letting go. And what's interesting is that their defense is coming from law enforcement. It's not something that they made up.
Right.
It's not something, ooh, this is a good way to let's divert all of the attention, let's send it in a total weird way.
Right.
This was something that law enforcement was actually realistically looking at. And then you go back to the whole Jeffrey Turco thing, which was
That is true.
when I was looking at it, I was like, how can they not know who this professor is that did this report?
And that's
How
why
is
in
it
my
possible?
video I said, Ava, your granddaughter could have gone and Googled that and figured it out. We probably could have put Ava on it. She
Yeah.
found it in like an hour, probably less time, you
Yeah.
know? It's true. They do start out with felony murder and then they change it. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, and Indiana is a weird state legally. Well, I guess any state you don't live in is a weird state legally. I mean, let's look at it this way. Idaho is a firing squad. Like that's insane to us living in Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? And that's why I just think I don't know. I see Kohberger pleading. You don't. I think that
No, he's going all the way.
touch DNA is a slam dunk, and you think no.
I don't think the DNA is going to be able to be presented at trial.
And the DNA too, that's another thing with the Delphi case. I think juries now are so much more sophisticated. They call it the CSI effect. And it basically means that, you know, they watched all this CSI, they watched all this fictional stuff, and they expect to see
They expect to get all the same evidence
hard
and-
DNA
yeah.
evidence and slam dunk cases. And a lot of cases are, I would be afraid to be on the jury. Probably, yeah, oh my goodness, with the craziness out in Delphi is scary. I'm going out there for the trial. I am so obsessed with this. I feel almost cosmically connected to this. I know that sounds new agey and hokey, but it's true. And I just want to see it. So I'm going to be there for the second week of the trial. And I'm probably going to be fangirling on all my favorite podcasters and, you know, and we're not able to make CrimeCon this year. So I'm going to have to wait for a year to fangirl on all my favorite podcasters and all my favorite information. You're right, though. Delphi is pretty scary. And you know what's funny? Some of the one of the podcasters that I know of was actually a person of interest. So, like, I don't know. Are they making these podcasts to prove they weren't? I don't know. It's weird. There's so much stuff going on there.
Yeah, Delphi, if you're into conspiracies and just weird crap, Delphi's definitely the one to watch.
Well, and look, I mean, Diener even said he recused himself and said the public's bloodlust is disgusting. Then he comes back in documents,
now
right?
I'm wondering about this Diener guy. I wonder if there's something more going on with him. Is there more going on with? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see when the trial starts, to see what is actually presented and what's actually out there.
Fire and Ice, I don't want to think they're framing him either. I don't, but the minute that PCA came out, like, at least if they had, like, I think the PCA in the Kohberger case was strong. And this PCA, I just looked at him and I looked at Pete, I had my little highlighter, I read my little pages, I was so excited. I'm like, oh my God, they have somebody, oh my God. And then when we looked at it, we were like, what do they really have here?
Yeah.
You know? And then when he confessed over the summer, I thought it was a done deal. I thought, okay, he confessed, it's over. You know, because that was in July, like.
Something like that. Yeah.
Well, a lot of stuff went down in the summer with that, because first, Kevin Greenleaf from the Murder Sheet, which anybody who's in the Delphi community either loves or loves to hate on, He filed to have Judge Gull release documents, and she released them for him. Like it was like 100 documents or something, you know? And then there was the confession. So it was just really strange. Did you hear about the guy who was walking down the street? Yes, we did. We did hear about the guy eating his own leg. Yep, absolutely. Another interesting thing about Delphi was that the Flora 4, which you just found out
I
about.
just found out about this, which
Yeah.
is also, I mean, on the surface, it doesn't seem like there's any connection to it.
But 2 young girls.
But then you
4
dig a
young
little
women.
bit deeper, is there a connection? And it's still an open case.
And you know another weird thing about Delphi, it is such a small town. What's the population, like 2,000?
Something like that, yeah.
That's like a high school.
Yeah.
You know, that's like a normal size high school, kind of. I just can't, with such a small population, it's just so strange, you know what I mean? I mean, even my hometown, which is like near Scranton, and that had 6,000 people when I was in high school.
And that's the other thing that makes me wonder about Richard Allen, because when this crime was committed, Richard Allen was in his 40s. So you're telling me that on just, a random day he was out and he decided, okay, now I'm going to decide to do this, and he hasn't done anything prior to that?
Right.
These types of crimes normally are not your first crime. Like normally
Right.
something this big there's going to be a lead up to it.
But he could have been a creeper and he could have been a peeping Tom, and just never got caught. He could have exposed himself to girls and never got. But in that town, that's the craziest thing about this case is him standing in front of his own wanted poster. Well, not wanted poster, but you know what I mean. Oh my goodness,
Yeah, for
I'm
what?
dating myself.
5 or 6 years.
It's just hanging up at the CVS, and there he is. Hey, I develop your film,
And not one single person said, yeah, that looks like you.
No, but I am going to look into the Evansdale girls because that sounds really interesting, and I will look into that. Yep.
Into what?
The Evansdale girls, Fire and Ice asked.
What are they?
I don't know. We're gonna look into it. Find out. Okay. I think they thought he did it and they were rushed and now are stuck. But yeah. Well, another weird thing too is that there was an election coming up.
Which seems to be a common theme across a lot of these.
If you follow the Watts case, it certainly is.
Which is, I mean, it makes sense if you're running for sheriff, you want to have a big arrest under your belt.
Well, especially since after that it had been 5 years.
And then the other thing now this is what's different between Indiana and Pennsylvania.
Yes, he did give them. Sorry, I didn't mean to
That's
interrupt you, but Fire and Ice. Yeah, he did give them their pictures for free. I found that interesting.
But the difference between Indiana and a lot of other states, I think, I guess I can really speak to what the difference is between Indiana and Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, the sheriff's office really doesn't do much. The sheriff's office is more for serving warrants, prisoner transports. That's about it. They don't really do much in terms of like where here it seems like they were almost the lead investigators.
Right.
In Pennsylvania, if this crime would have happened here, the Pennsylvania State Police would have been the lead. Nobody, the sheriff's office wouldn't have been anywhere near it. Our local police departments wouldn't have been anywhere near it.
The FBI might have come in.
The FBI definitely would have come in because I know Pennsylvania State Police works hand in hand with the FBI. So that's the difference where in Indiana, so now you have the sheriff's department and the sheriff who's up for re-election needs to make a big splash.
Right.
Where here in Pennsylvania, that never would have happened. Yeah, the sheriff runs for office, but he's not really doing anything.
And let's talk about the FBI, because I don't know how they can kick the FBI off these cases. But it happened in Delphi. They kicked the FBI out of it.
Well, you can kick the FBI off anytime
It happened
you
in
want, but why
Lisk.
would you do it?
It happened in Lisk, and that's why Lisk went undetected for so long, because the guy in charge of that was corrupt AF, and he was meeting with sex workers himself. But kick the FBI off, and then you could just do whatever the hell you want. That's what I don't understand. To me, if that was my loved one, if I was Libby and Abby's mom or loved one or family member, I'd be like, you leave the FBI on that case, because this dog and pony freaking Delphi show is not going to solve the murder of my daughter.
No,
or my,
the FBI
my loved
has
one.
more resources than almost anybody. I mean, I guess some of the state police agencies across the country do have comparable facilities and comparable experts, but you're not going to beat the FBI in terms of being able to investigate, analyze.
The FBI
Yeah,
wouldn't have
it's-
lost those audio tapes for sure.
But then again, the FBI had that crappy tape recorder that they did for Nicole Kessinger in that park video, in that park audio. That was really bad. So that was the FBI. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but that was them kissing Nicole Kessinger's butt and letting her come with her daddy in a park. By the way, we were talking about this today. No one knows Nicole Kessinger's birth date. Isn't that interesting? They know the year she was born, but they do not know the date of her birth. Let's think about that for a second. Why would they hide the date of your birth? Maybe because your daddy's in the CIA? That's pretty interesting to me, isn't it?
Yeah, there's something going on with that dad, definitely. And I'm going to find it.
So let's move on to the Crumbly sentence. I think someone said they weren't following the Crumblies, but we put that on our list of stuff
Yeah,
to
that's
talk
what
about.
on our list. And
So what do you think? We talked about it a little bit, right?
Yeah, we talked about it. They definitely got what they deserved.
Now, related to that is the shooting of of Abby Werner, the teacher by the 6-year-old
In Virginia.
in Newport News, Virginia, and that is heating up now, because what happened was, I don't know if anybody's following that one, would have access to the over-the-counter medications for meth making. Yes, he would. Yes, because he was a pharmacy technician. Absolutely. I've heard there were meth. Well, yeah, and that was part of the whole MAGA thing. So we're back on Delphi. Sorry. That was part of that, right? They said there was a lot of meth going on there, and a lot of, in those small towns it does. Meth is huge in small
Meth is
towns.
huge,
You know, yeah. And then there was the whole tie to the MAGA rally. That was interesting too.
Well, when you're dealing with cult worshiping and this Odinism and those, you're delving into the white supremacists.
Right.
And then you have the white supremacists are obviously a subculture of the MAGA movement. So yeah, I can see where it all ties
Yeah, I
together.
talked to a friend of mine who's into all that, and he said that Odinists are not normally murderous or sacrificial, but the white supremacy,
That takes over,
right,
right?
part of it is does those things.
Yeah, and the white supremacists sort of take over these organizations and turn it into something it wasn't originally supposed to be.
So are you guys following, did you follow Abby Werner, who was shot by the 6-year-old? Because that's pretty crazy. So what's happening in that case is she had sued the school for a $40 million lawsuit because she basically can't work the rest of her life now. I'm sure she has post-traumatic stress disorder, probably complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And so she sued for $40 million, and basically the school wanted to give her workman's compensation. So that isn't how workman's compensation works. Workman's compensation is, so like if a child stabs me with scissors, I would get workman's comp.
Yeah, for the
It's a normal, occupational
for
hazard.
whatever time you're out of work.
Sadly, that is becoming a normal occupational hazard of teachers, but obviously the law doesn't recognize it, thank goodness. So, so now they're charging Ebony Parker, who was the assistant principal, vice principal at the school, with 8 counts
Of felony child abuse.
that carry up to a total, so 5 years each, so 40 years in prison for
Yeah.
her. And they say she ignored multiple warnings. That seems to be.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and the way it sort of ties into the Crumblies is, I wonder if there's now some sort of movement here to start holding other people accountable for these school shootings other than just the shooter. So in the Crumblies case, as of right now, we have the parents that were being held accountable. And I'm wondering now that this Ebony Parker, the vice principal, is going to face charges. I wonder if that school in Michigan where Ethan Crumbley shot everybody, now are they going to
Yes,
start
there's a
being...
civil, yes, the families are suing them civilly. They're suing the dean of students, and they're suing the guidance counselor.
Well, that's civil, but now is there going to be any sort of criminal
I don't
charges?
think in that case there's any criminal, I don't know.
And I just find that interesting that maybe now there's
Because in the
movement.
case of Ethan Crumbley, nobody said this kid has a weapon. In the case of, in Abby Werner's case, obviously we don't know the child's name because he's only 6, people said he has a weapon.
Right, yeah.
Maybe that's the difference, you know,
Maybe.
I don't know.
No.
You guys really know your Delphi, so did you know, yes, true. Richard Allen went to some sort of rehab facility after the murders, did you know that?
No.
No, and also somebody said his meth and his position in the drugstore. We do know that he did suffer from depression, according to the one document. And I also know that he hung out a lot at the local bars. So I don't know if there was, you know, we don't want to assume alcoholism, but that's kind of that. The pictures of him are at the bars. You know what I mean?
No, that's
Yeah, so-
something I didn't know.
That's interesting. He did have an alcohol problem. Okay, I had heard that, but I didn't want to, you know, speculate. But yeah, I know that was a lot of pictures of them at the bars and stuff, you know. I just don't see this little dude doing it, but hey, I could be wrong.
And then I had originally come up with I don't even know.
Not that size has anything to do with murder. Like, I don't know. I guess you picture the boogeyman in your head, and that's the intriguing thing about a lot of these murders. Like, I'll never forget when they arrested Gary Ridgway. You know, and he just seemed so freaking normal. You know, or Chris Watts. Like, the dude was chill AF. You know what I mean? And it's just strange when they do. Or Dennis Rader. Yeah, I killed them all. He was like so chill. Like, it's so strange when they finally get the guy.
Right.
You know, and it doesn't. But if you look at the pictures of the Delphi players, Richard Allen looks the least guilty. Not that you can judge a book by its cover, you can't. But like that Brad, what's his face? Brad Westphal,
Holder.
Brad Holder, not Brad Holder. Oh yeah, Brad Holder looks scary AF. Patrick
Westfall.
looks scary too. You know, so.
Yeah, originally when I was first brought into the Delphi case, and Mary sort of brought me in with Keegan
That was
Klein.
weird. You're right about that. Go ahead.
With the Keegan Klein angle.
Yeah.
And what I had suggested, and this was, you know, before I really even started looking at everything, but that was sort of what popped out. The connection was Keegan Klein.
Fire and Ice, you know your Delphi. I am impressed. Sorry I cut you off. Cut him
Keegan
off on his
Klein.
birthday. Way to go, man.
Pedophile. Richard Allen works at a CVS in the photo spot.
Absolutely curious about the Crumblies.
Is Keegan Klein, was Richard Allen developing Keegan Klein's pedophile pictures? That was
Yes, we had
the
talked about
connection
that
that I
too, right?
saw before I even looked at anything. And and that's where I am not going to fall down on the Richard Allen is 100% innocent, because there's so many things that we just don't know yet that might, and there might not be anything, or there might be huge bombshells and be like, oh
These
my goodness, how can we even
people-
think that he was
These
innocent?
people in Delphi are very interconnected.
Everybody
you know?
is, yeah.
Yes. Oh, so Fire and Ice said she didn't think of that. Holder looks more like Bridge Guy. Yeah. But now they say Holder was cleared, so I don't know. They like your point. Go, Peter. He's finally getting some props for his points, because it's
Yes.
usually me arguing with him.
Yeah, usually my points fall on deaf ears or get laughed at most of the time.
Yeah, I'm that one. He had an alibi. Yes, Brad Holder did have an alibi. Absolutely.
But it was
yeah.
a shaky alibi, wasn't it?
Now, did you hear this? Richard Allen would never speak on videos that his wife made afterwards, after
No.
the crime, which would. And that voice is so soft too, guys down the hill. Like, it's so soft, you know what I mean? It's not even what you expect.
And that's the other thing, the guys down the hill. So you can look at it in one sense that guys is
Yes,
just talking to
Pete
the
brought
two
up a good point
girls
with this.
to get them down the hill, but it's also guys down the hill is other people that are involved
Right.
getting the girls down the hill. And it all could be Richard Allen is 1,000% tied into this, but I still don't think he did it by himself.
No.
I just don't think there's any way one person could have done this. So if he was involved, I think he did have other people helping.
What do you guys think about the Keegan Klein timeline? That always was interesting to me. It seemed like it was way too close with him getting arrested and everything that went on there.
And then he had all
And
these
then
charges,
those
and
charges were
dropped.
dropped and then re-added, and the whole Keegan Klein, who is a complete creep and ill, is pretty crazy, right?
Yeah.
Psychopaths can definitely fool you. Yeah, that's what they do. Narcissists too, sociopaths, all that for sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I can't wait for this trial. I have a weird feeling though, it might not go to, I have a feeling more crap's gonna go on
I don't
at
agree
this
with
trial.
that. I just don't see
I
how that
hope
could
so.
get out of it
I
at
hope
this point.
so.
I think it has to go now.
I agree with you, Fire and Ice. The timeline just is too nefarious for Keegan Klein and Tony Klein not to be involved. I absolutely agree with you, for sure.
And if you really, and if you want to, and I understand that this Bridge Guy video is just a horrible video, but look at Bridge Guy and look at Tony Klein and tell me they do not look like they're the same person.
Well, you know, the funny thing about Bridge Guy is he looks like every dude in Indiana.
Well, that's true.
know?
And when every dude in Indiana looks like every dude in Pennsylvania.
Right.
They all look
or
the same.
that'd be like, you know, Bridge Guy in Pennsylvania having the cutoff jean shorts and, you know, a Yingling Lager t-shirt in the video, in the picture, you know. And the weird thing is this video is so grainy. God bless Libby's heart. She took the video, but it's so grainy and it could be anybody, you know?
And that's the other thing. How can't they clean that up? With all of the technology
Mm-hmm.
that we have, this is the best we have. Yeah. That's why I think that once the trial starts, a different video, everybody's going to see a different video.
You think?
Yeah, a much more detailed, a much clearer video. The audio is going to be better.
Now, what do you think about the two sketches? The first one resembles the real Bridge Guy. The second sketch to me resembles Anthony Schatz. What do you think?
No, the first sketch resembled the lead singer for AC/DC.
Brian Johnson?
Yes, that's who the first one resembled. The second resembled some young dude. I don't know. Neither one of them resembled anybody.
Bridge Guy kept a stiff upper lip and
Yes,
a shot
he
from
did.
the hip, for sure. Yeah, I don't. It looks like Anthony Schatz to me. And then the brown poofy hair doesn't make sense
In
either.
his 20s.
But then again, anybody could have been on that bridge. I mean, there wasn't a whole hell of a lot to do in Delphi. You know,
No, it was
wasn't
February. It was an
unusually warm day.
warm day in February. Everybody was probably out.
Do you think these families know more too than they, you know? And it's weird that they gagged the families. Everybody else could talk but the families. And in the Koberger case, they gagged everybody but the families. So in Delphi, they gagged the families, and in Koberger, they gag everybody but the families. And I'm sure they feel bad about that because what's his face is all over the place. Steve Gonzalez, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kegan Klein had some information about Richard Allen too. You know, they took him to that hotel and let him have that I'm going to throw up when I say this. I threw up in my mouth a little bit. They let him have that romantic night with his fiance, you know. Okay, yeah. You notice the defense. No, they don't. They never mention the Kleins. Absolutely. Yep. And they were waiting for somebody at the bridge. Yeah, I think that they definitely were led to that bridge by whoever.
I think so too. And as soon as I found out about Kegan Klein, that just made total sense.
Plus, the description of the car resembles Kegan Klein's grandma. And then what the heck's up with that, by the way? Oh my God, my brain's all over the place here, but I'm talking about Delphi. A 1965 Mercury with sharp ankles, and the dude drove a Ford Focus. What do you think about that, Fire and Ice? You think he's the guy? What do you think? What's up with the cars?
I just hope that there's a lot more that's going to come out. Because nothing we have so far makes any sense.
And we know that a lot of times the prosecution will drop a bombshell, for sure.
Yes, but, and again, we're not lawyers, and I'm definitely not a lawyer. Sometimes I wish I was, so I would understand some of this stuff. So you brought up the point that the reason the defense is filing all of these motions and getting all this stuff on record is so they're lining themselves up for an appeal if it comes down to that. But in terms of the prosecution, I was always under the understanding that they had to turn over all of the evidence that they had
They do.
to the defense
Until
so
they
that the defense could prepare. So that's where I was thinking, okay, so when Labredo came on the case back in late December, early January, at that point he should have had all of the evidence. And then he's going on court TV saying, I don't usually think that my clients are innocent, but in this case, I definitely 1000% think he's innocent.
Fire and Ice, why don't you have your own Delphi channel, or do you? And why am I not subscribing to you? I think Libby took the video because it wasn't who it was supposed to be to meet her. Very good point.
Yeah.
Like, I better document this because this isn't who he said he was.
This is not the dude that
Yeah, you need to have your own channel, and we will subscribe to you and follow you, maybe.
Yes, definitely.
Because you know your Delphi, let me tell you. And you know what the funny thing was? In the beginning, we weren't getting any views on Delphi, and we couldn't understand. And I would show him you know, all the content creators with how many subscribers they have and how many views they got on Delphi, and we were shocked.
Yeah.
And then we made that video about Nikolai Mew, which I just saw it on Court TV and thought, oh, this is really effed up, let's do this. And thousands of people, right? There were, yeah, so it's so funny.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like Delphi really has not gotten the same coverage,
No.
especially not with the mainstream media.
No, and even if you look at if you look at our videos, that the Apple River, the comments, the interaction was just amazing. It's like everybody was
Good point for why it could be grainy fire.
commenting
Very good point.
and going back and forth, and we never had that on any of our videos before. That was the first time.
Now, Fire and Ice, what do you think about this not being televised? Are you going to be like waiting on it all day and then trying to catch up with when Bob Motter or somebody covers it at the end? We should talk about our favorite Delphi creators too, because we only have 8 minutes left.
We only have 8 minutes left. Yes.
Okay. Hopefully we did well. We appreciate you guys. Thank you
Yes,
so
thank
much
you
for
so much
coming
for-
on here and hanging out with us.
Bearing with us, not knowing anything that we're doing. So
Yeah.
hopefully next time will be a little bit.
And you know what's
Better.
funny? Yesterday we watched a video for creators about going live, and they said you will do a live with no one in it, and we were prepared for that today.
Yes.
So we appreciate you so much.
We
Thank you
really
so
do.
much. Pete couldn't have had a better birthday present except
No.
for maybe 1,000 subscribers.
Yes.
But we're just trying to. We're not really worried about that. We're worried about who our audience is and what they want to see. So please, like, email us, leave us comments. You know, it's good to see that you, Fire and Ice, you're so into Delphi.
Yeah.
Curtis, I'm glad you're following Chad Daybell because that's starting to intrigue me now. That case never really intrigued me, but now that I see that they basically killed everyone in their wake and there's the whole religious aspect, I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, I didn't know that
You
he
know.
was a prophet.
The eyewitnesses really don't help much either way. Absolutely. And they say that. That's like forensics 101. Eyewitnesses are bullshit.
Yeah.
Because people don't remember. Now, there have been people on the stand who have been uncannily, like, great witnesses. But I don't think
They're
any
few
of these
and far
people in
between,
Delphi
though.
are going to be the,
No.
you know, the card description is so far off, it's laughable. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Curtis.
I mean, the
Agree on that one.
PCA really lends itself to there was more than one person involved because they're describing more than one person.
You're
they're
right.
naming different cars.
I have to cut you off again for Fire
That's
and Ice.
okay.
Fire and Ice, let me tell you, you are the real MVP today. Bridge Guy was behind Abby. Maybe they zoomed in the video, so Abby was not in the pic. That's a very good point.
Mm-hmm.
Next time we do this, we want to have people call in. We got to figure that out.
Well, we got to figure out how to be able to go on our live that we scheduled first before we have people calling in.
Maybe we
Because
should
we had
just
this
put
whole
something
scheduled
up in
live and we
community.
weren't able to go live on that one.
Maybe
had
we
to
should
create
just
a
put
new
something up in community. We're going live on such and such a
one.
date.
I think that's
Just
what we're
pop
going to do
on.
next time because
You know? I just think if we want a teenager, I would have walked those
we are so brand new at all. I mean, really, we if you look through our older videos, we did have this channel was named something differently back before the pandemic, and we were going to wineries and we are just sort of, doing.
I got him obsessed with true
yeah.
crime. It's
So-
all me.
And then when the pandemic hit, obviously that just had to stop.
Right.
So then when we started this channel, and we did our first video was New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, New Year's Day
Right.
of this year. And I was like, all right, we'll sit down and we'll do it. It was all Mary's idea. So we went in, she prepared for it, she got everything ready, and we went and did it. And then the next morning when we woke up, I was like, oh my God, people actually watched us? Because our wine videos were getting maybe 20 views, 50
You too,
views
Curtis.
here and
Thank
there.
you so much. We really appreciate you. Please keep watching us. We are so happy to have you here. Thank you so much. And Fire and Ice, absolutely. When I saw like how they were found and how the murder went down, and this, it's just absolutely horrible. And they were children, 13
Yeah.
and 14. They looked like young women, but they were children. You know what I mean? Thank you so much, Fire and Ice. If you ever want to think about moderating for us as we get better, we would love to have you because you seem to be the go-to person
Yeah.
for Delphi. And after we're done with the live, I am so going to see if you have a channel, and if you do, I'm going to subscribe. And like I said, we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for coming into our live. and for celebrating Peter's birthday with us.
Yes, thank you so much.
And for talking
both of you.
Delphi. We're glad you guys are huge Delphi fans. Please leave us comments if you'd like us to cover other curses. I was gonna say
Other
Curtis,
cases?
other cases, and Curtis is into Chad Daybell, so we're gonna do a lot of that. And we're
Yeah.
definitely gonna cover. We want to wait when Chad Dorman. I hate that son of a bee. He needs the death penalty. Anyway, and I don't even usually believe in the death penalty.
No.
For that son of a bee, he deserves the death penalty. So we'll be copying that. So thank you so much for coming in here. We love you guys.
Oh, you need a channel.
You
Fire
need a
Eyes.
channel. You are the real MVP about Delphi. So if you ever want to moderate for us, let us know, and we would love to have you moderate. I guess we're gonna end our live, huh?
Yep. Well, let's just know what we've been
Oh, we should
drinking.
talk about the wine too, since
Yes.
Fire and Ice is still here. Okay, I don't know if you like wine, Fire and Ice, but we do.
Well, for my birthday, so we broke out the champagne for my birthday, and this is from Dr. Frank up in the Finger Lakes, and it's a very fancy, very, very fancy winery.
It's like Iggy Azalea. It's so
Yeah.
fancy.
It's very fancy, and their wines are not that great, I don't think, but their champagne is, oh my God, it's just unbelievable. So that's what we're drinking here. It's a very, when you
It's
go
weird
there to
watching
do
it on the delay on our Chromebook, on our
yeah,
iPad.
when you go to do a tasting, it's it's a lot of pomp and circumstance.
Yes. Like I said, Fire and Ice, if there's anything you want us to cover, tell us how we did in the live. I'd really appreciate your feedback. We're a fledgling channel. We're trying
And
our
we're
best
just
here.
working to get better every video.
I'm very hard on myself. I hate every videos. Always wins number one in his wine. That's awesome. Your friend's a winemaker? That is so cool. We would love to talk to him. We'll have to maybe we can interview him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we are big into wine. So
Thank you so much. Please tell us how we did on the live. I'd
Yes.
really like to get some feedback about it. And we look forward to having you in our next live. We look forward to having you watch our videos. We look forward to your awesome apple wine. We love us some apple wine,
Oh,
don't
yeah.
we? Apple flavor. And we love us some cider too. So.
yes, cider is.
Yeah, so.
We're big fans of the cider.
So let us know how we did in our live. If you watch this at a later date, leave us a comment, like, subscribe. We are so appreciative of you. We did really well. Thank you so much, Fire and Ice.
Thank you.
You did well. You did
Yes.
better than we did. You know about more than Delphi than I do. You are the real MVP. Happy Sunday. We are a true crime and wine couple, and this live went better than we thought. I
Yes.
think.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
And to
Thanks,
those who
Fire
were
and
not
Ice.
able to make it, we apologize for messing this whole thing up and not being where we were supposed to be.
Right.
So we will do better next time.
And Fire and Ice, we look forward to the next one, and we want you to call